The white light faded and Hana found herself standing in a circular chamber. The floor was made of something smooth and metallic that seemed to glow from within. The walls curved upward into a dome high above her head. She was not alone. 6 other warriors stood around the circle, each at an equal distance from the others. They turned to look at her, and Hana felt the weight of their attention like a physical force. The first warrior was massive, at least 8 feet tall. Its body was covered in biomechanical armor that seemed to breathe and pulse. The armor was dark red, almost black, with glowing veins running through it. It carried a weapon that looked like a staff, but energy crackled between the 2 ends. The second warrior had 4 arms. Its body was covered in natural armor plates that looked like they could stop bullets. Each hand held a blade that glowed with blue plasma. Its eyes were compound like an insect's, and they focused on Hana with disturbing intensity. The third warrior floated above the ground, its body contained in a shimmering field of energy. Inside the field, its form shifted and changed, never quite solid. There were 3 others, each more intimidating than the last. And then there was Hana, standing barefoot in her simple combat suit. One of the warriors made a sound that the translation device in her ear converted to laughter. It was not a kind sound. The humans send a child, the massive warrior rumbled. Its voice was deep enough to vibrate through the floor. And an unarmed child at that. Perhaps they misunderstood the test, another warrior said. This one had skin like metal scales. Perhaps they thought it was a dance competition. More laughter. Hana stood quietly observing. She noted how each warrior stood, how they moved, how they carried themselves. The massive one was confident, maybe overconfident. The 4-armed warrior was coiled tight, ready to strike at any moment. The floating one seemed detached, as if it existed half in this reality and half somewhere else. A voice filled the chamber. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. I am the system, the voice said. It was neither male nor female, neither young nor old. I have evaluated combat viability for 10,000 cycles. I have tested 847 species. You are the chosen warriors of the 848th. The chamber's walls began to display images. Hana saw thousands of warriors who had stood in this place before. Some had passed. Some had failed. Some had died. You will face 7 scenarios, the system continued. Each scenario will test a different aspect of combat capability: strength, speed, endurance, adaptability, intelligence, courage, and finally, choice. The word choice hung in the air like a question. You may use any weapons or equipment you brought with you, the system said. You may also surrender at any time. Surrender means failure for your species. The 4-armed warrior looked at Hana. Human, do you want to borrow a weapon? I have spares. There was mockery in its tone. No, thank you, Hana said politely. Your funeral, the warrior said, and the others laughed again. The first scenario begins now, the system announced. The chamber dissolved around them. Hana felt solid ground under her feet, but everything else changed. They were standing in a jungle. The air was thick and humid, hard to breathe. The plants around them were alien, with leaves the color of purple and orange. Strange sounds echoed through the trees. Scenario 1, environmental adaptation, the system said. Survive for 1 hour. The atmosphere contains toxins lethal to most species. The local fauna is hostile. Immediately, the other warriors activated their equipment. Force fields sprang up, helmet seals engaged. The massive warrior deployed a full environmental suit that covered every inch of its body. Hana felt the air burning her throat. The toxins. She quickly tore a strip of fabric from the sleeve of her combat suit and soaked it in water from a nearby plant. She tied it around her nose and mouth, creating a basic filter. It would not stop everything, but it would help. She watched the local wildlife. Small creatures moved through the trees, breathing the toxic air without problem. They avoided certain plants and stayed near others. Hana moved closer to one of the safe zones where the air seemed slightly clearer. The other warriors crashed through the jungle with their heavy armor and equipment. They moved in straight lines, forcing their way through the vegetation. Hana moved differently. She flowed around obstacles, stepping where the ground was firm, avoiding the thorny plants. Interesting, the system's voice said, though only Hana seemed to hear it. The human adapts rather than overwhelms. 20 minutes into the scenario, Hana heard a scream. One of the warriors had triggered a trap plant. Huge vines were wrapping around its body, crushing its armor. The warrior tried to cut free with its weapons, but the vines were too fast, too strong, Hana observed. The vines avoided the small native creatures. Why? She watched carefully and saw that the creatures rubbed against certain plants before moving near the trap vines. Some kind of chemical deterrent. She gathered sap from those plants and smeared it on her skin. When she passed near another trap vine, it recoiled from her. Clever, the system said. The massive warrior was having trouble. Its heavy armor was sinking into the soft ground. It struggled forward, but each step took enormous effort. The four-armed warrior moved better, but its compound eyes were irritated by something in the air, and it kept stopping to clear its vision. Hana moved like water, finding the path of least resistance. She was not the strongest or the fastest, but she was learning the jungle's rules and following them. 30 minutes remain, the system announced. Then the jungle flooded. Water poured from the sky and the ground turned to mud. Within seconds, the water was waist-deep and rising fast. The warriors in heavy armor began to sink. They activated flotation systems and emergency protocols. Some deployed wings or jets to lift themselves above the water. Hana did not panic. She had trained in water since she was a child. She kicked off her boots and let them sink. Shoes would only slow her down now. She found a floating log and used it for support while she caught her breath. The water kept rising. 5 feet deep, 6 feet, the massive warrior was completely submerged, its armor too heavy to float. Hana could see it struggling below the surface. She took a deep breath and dove down. She found the warrior and pointed to the emergency release panel on its armor. The warrior stared at her through its helmet, probably confused why a human was helping, but it understood. It triggered the release and the armor fell away. The warrior shot to the surface, gasping. "Why did you help me?" the warrior demanded when they both broke the surface. "We are competitors." "Because you needed help," Hana said simply. The system's voice filled the jungle. Scenario 1 complete. All warriors survived. The jungle dissolved and they were back in the White Chamber. The warriors were checking their equipment, some looking at Hana with new eyes. "The human shows unexpected capability," one of them said. "She got lucky," another argued. But the massive warrior that Hana had saved said nothing. It just looked at her with what might have been respect. The system's voice came again, but this time it seemed to be speaking directly to Hana, though the others could not hear. "You move as if you expect to die," the system said. Why? Hana thought about her training. Her grandfather's words. "Every martial artist learns that in a real fight you might die." Accepting that fear, moving past it, that was the first step to true skill. Because death is always possible. Hana answered quietly. "Fear of it makes you slow. Acceptance of it makes you free." "Fascinating," the system said. "You are not like the others." "No," Hana agreed. "I'm human." The chamber began to change again. The second scenario was beginning. Hana stood ready, barefoot and bruised, but still standing. The other warriors prepared their weapons, and somewhere in the station's core, the ancient artificial intelligence that had tested species for 10,000 years began to wonder if it had finally encountered something new. Something it did not understand, something that might change everything. The White Chamber did not change. The warriors stood waiting, but the system remained silent. Minutes passed. The other warriors began to look uncomfortable. "What is happening?" one of them asked. "The system is thinking," the massive warrior said. "I have heard stories of this. When the system encounters something it cannot explain, it stops to analyze." "What did the human do that was so impossible?" the four-armed warrior demanded. "She survived," the massive warrior said simply, looking at Hana with something like respect. On Earth, alarms were sounding in the observation room. Tejo was receiving urgent messages from the collective. "They're summoning us," he said, his face pale. "The collective council wants to speak with us immediately. They're accusing us of cheating." "Cheating how?" Kaiwan demanded. "They think we genetically modified Hana or gave her cybernetic enhancements," Taiho said. "They're demanding we explain how a human can have abilities that exceed species with millions of years of evolutionary advantage." Minji was already pulling up data. "We need to show them the truth about human evolution. Get me a connection to the Nexus. I need Minho." Minho Song was Earth's leading evolutionary biologist. He had been studying the alien data since first contact. Now he was being called to testify before the entire Galactic Collective. The scene shifted. Hana remained in the White Chamber, But Taiho, Kiwan, and Minji found themselves transported to a massive council room. Thousands of alien species filled the viewing galleries. At the center sat the High Arbiter, an ancient being made of pure energy. Earth representatives. The Arbiter's voice was like thunder. Explain your deception. There is no deception, Kiwan said firmly. Lieutenant Kim is a normal human. She has no modifications, no enhancements, no cybernetic implants. Impossible, one council member said. We have scanned her. She is biological. Yet she performs at levels that should require technological assistance. That's because you don't understand Earth, Minho said, stepping forward. He activated a holographic display. Let me show you what it means to be human. The display showed Earth rotating in space. Beautiful blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. It looked peaceful. This is Earth, Minho began. To you it might look like a paradise world. But Earth is what we call a death world. Everything about it is designed to kill. The display zoomed in, showing Earth's environment. Massive storms. Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, ice ages, droughts, floods. Earth has extreme weather, Minho continued. The temperature can vary by 80 degrees in a single day. Humans had to survive in deserts, in frozen tundra, in dense jungles on high mountains. Most species evolve in one environment. Humans evolved to handle them all. That explains adaptability, not endurance, one council member challenged. I'm getting to that, Minho said. He changed the display to show various Earth predators. Lions, bears, wolves, crocodiles, sharks. Earth had thousands of predator species. Most worlds have dozens. But here's the interesting part. Humans didn't have claws. We didn't have fangs. We didn't have armor or venom or size. Then how did you survive? Another council member asked. We ran, Minho said simply, but not fast. No human can outrun a lion in a sprint. So we developed persistence hunting. We tracked prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We could do this because of several unique adaptations. The display showed a human running. The image highlighted various body parts. Humans can sweat, Minho explained. Most species cannot. Sweating allows us to cool our bodies while running, so we can maintain activity for hours. We also have specialized ligaments in our legs and feet that store and release energy with each step, making running more efficient. And our shoulder structure allows us to throw objects with deadly accuracy while running. No other species can do this. The council chamber was silent. The aliens were beginning to understand. But the most important adaptation is here, Minho said, pointing to the human brain in the display. Humans can suppress pain and exhaustion through willpower. We can convince our bodies to keep going past their normal limits. Other species stop when their body says stop. Humans can choose to continue. That is illogical, one council member said. It would lead to self-destruction. Sometimes it does, Minho admitted. But more often it leads to survival. When a mother lifts a car to save her child. When a soldier fights despite injuries. When a runner completes a marathon on a broken foot. Humans can override our biological limits through sheer determination. We are the only species that does this naturally. Sora Nam, a xenobiologist, added more data. I've been comparing human physiology to all species in the collective. Most of you evolved on worlds with lower gravity than Earth. Your bones are less dense. Your muscles are smaller. Your cardiovascular systems are less efficient. A few of you are stronger than humans. But none of you have our endurance. None of you have our adaptability. And none of you have our refusal to quit. The High Arbiter spoke. What you describe is not a warrior species. It is a survivor species. Yes, Kiwan said. That's exactly what we are. We survived 200,000 years on a world that kept trying to kill us. We learned to adapt, to endure, to overcome. We didn't need weapons because we learned to make everything a weapon. We didn't need armor because we learned to avoid damage. We didn't need technology because we had each other. Pack hunters, the massive warrior's voice came through the communication system. He was still with Hana in the White Chamber, listening to the testimony. Humans are pack hunters, social predators. That is why the human Hana helped me in the first scenario. Not because she is weak, but because cooperation is her species' strength. The system's voice joined the council proceedings. I have completed my analysis. The human is unmodified, but Earth has modified its species through natural selection in ways I have never encountered. Most species develop technology to overcome environmental challenges. Humans develop themselves. Is this dangerous? The High Arbiter asked. There was a pause. Then the system said something that shocked everyone. I do not know. In 10,000 cycles, I have never been uncertain. But I am uncertain now. Back in the White Chamber, Hana had been waiting quietly. Now the system spoke to her directly. The council questions whether your species is too dangerous to join the collective. I understand, Hana said. You do not argue? You do not defend? What would be the point? Hana asked. Their right to be cautious. Humans are dangerous. We're apex predators who learn to think. We're survivors who refuse to die. We're social creatures who can coordinate complex strategies. We're tool users who can turn anything into a weapon. Of course we're dangerous. Then you admit your species is a threat? I admit we could be, Hana said carefully. But being dangerous and being a threat are different things. A knife is dangerous, but it's not a threat to the cook using it. Humans are dangerous, but we choose how to use that danger. Choice, the system said. You mentioned this before. It's the most important thing, Hana said. Yes, humans can run for days without stopping. Yes, we can survive in any environment. Yes, we can kill efficiently. But we also create art, we write poetry. We help strangers. We save enemies. We choose to be more than our biology demands. The system was silent for a long moment. Then it said, Scenario 4 will begin now. This will test that claim. The White Chamber transformed. Hana found herself in a city under attack. Buildings were burning. She could hear screams. The scenario was chaos. Scenario 4. Combat tactics, the system announced. Enemy forces are attacking. Defeat them. Holographic enemies appeared, moving through the streets in coordinated groups. They were well armed and organized. This scenario was designed for a team of warriors, but Hana was alone. She watched the enemy's movements carefully. They were following standard tactics, moving in formation, covering each other. They were good, but they were predictable. Hana did not attack directly. Instead, she moved through the burning city like a ghost. She used the smoke for cover. She turned corners unexpectedly. She made noise in one place and attacked from another. The holographic enemies became confused. They heard her here, saw her there, but could never pin her down. They started shooting at shadows. Then they started shooting at each other. Impossible, one council member said, watching from the Nexus. She fights as though she has allies, but she is alone. She does have allies, Dae-hyun said quietly from Earth. She fights with every tactic humans ever invented, every strategy ever developed. She carries the knowledge of every warrior who came before her. That's what it means to be human. We're never truly alone. The White Chamber transformed into darkness. Then stars appeared, millions of them, surrounding the warriors in every direction. They were in space. Scenario 2, Zero Gravity Combat, the system announced. Defeat your opponents or survive for 1 hour. Hana felt her stomach drop as gravity disappeared. She was floating, tumbling slowly in the void. Around her, the other warriors activated their equipment. Magnetic boots clamped onto floating debris. Energy tethers shot out, connecting them to solid surfaces. Jetpacks fired, giving them control over their movement. Hana had no equipment. She was spinning in empty space, completely out of control, or so it seemed. She had trained in water where movement was three-dimensional. This was similar but without resistance. She spread her arms and legs, slowing her spin. Then she waited, watching for debris to float past. When a piece of metal drifted close, she grabbed it and threw it in the opposite direction. The force pushed her toward a larger piece of wreckage. The human has no mobility systems, one warrior observed. She is helpless. But the massive warrior that Hana had saved in the jungle was watching carefully. Wait, it said. Watch her. Hana reached the large debris and pushed off gently, controlling her direction now. She moved through the space like a swimmer, using each piece of wreckage to change course. It was slow, but it was controlled. The four-armed warrior decided to attack. It fired its jetpack and shot toward Hana. All four blades extended. In zero gravity, with no way to dodge, Hana should have been an easy target. But as the warrior came close, Hana grabbed a small piece of debris and threw it. Not at the warrior, but to the side. The throw pushed her body in the opposite direction, just enough to avoid the attack. The warrior flew past, unable to stop its momentum. She is using physics, the floating energy being said, sounding surprised. She has no equipment, so she has become the equipment. Another warrior attacked, this one with a ranged weapon. Energy bolts shot through space toward Hana. She pushed off a piece of wreckage, moving behind a larger chunk of metal. The bolt struck the metal instead of her. The massive warrior laughed, a deep rumbling sound. The little human is making fools of you all. Back on Earth, Dae-hyun Han watched the test on the viewing screen. He had been Hana's martial arts instructor for 15 years. He understood what she was doing. She's treating zero gravity like deep water, he said to the others in the observation room. Every movement has an equal and opposite reaction. She learned that principle when she was 8 years old. Minji was analyzing data that streamed from the Nexus. This is incredible. The other warriors are using more energy every second just to maintain position. Hana is using almost nothing. She's not fighting the environment. She's becoming part of it. On the Nexus, Hana had reached a cluster of debris. The massive warrior floated nearby, watching her with interest. You are clever, human, it said. But cleverness alone will not win this test. I'm not trying to win, Hana said. I'm trying to survive. There is a difference? A big one, Hana replied. She pushed off again, moving toward the center of the debris field. The system's voice spoke again only to her. Why do you move toward danger instead of away from it? Because the center of the debris field has more options, Hana explained. More ways to move, more ways to adapt. The edge is a dead end. You think strategically even while in motion, the system observed. Your species has this capability naturally. All humans do, Hana said. We had to. On Earth, everything was trying to kill us. We learned to think while running, plan while fighting, adapt while surviving. The scenario continued. One by one, the other warriors exhausted their equipment. Jetpacks ran out of fuel. Energy tethers broke. Magnetic boots lost power. They were forced to float helplessly, waiting for the scenario to end. But Hana was still moving, still controlling her position through careful use of momentum and debris. By the end of the hour, she was the only warrior with full mobility. Scenario 2 complete, the system announced. They returned to the white chamber. The warriors were breathing hard, frustrated. Hana was calm, centered. Scenario 3, endurance hunt, the system said. The chamber became a vast plain under a red sun. The ground was hard and cracked. Heat shimmered in the air. A target will flee from you, the system explained. Whoever catches it first wins. If no one catches it within 18 hours, everyone fails. A creature appeared in the distance. It looked fast, built for speed. It saw the warriors and immediately ran. The warriors activated their pursuit systems. The four-armed warriors' legs transformed, becoming longer and more powerful. Others deployed vehicles or hover platforms. They shot forward, chasing the creature at incredible speeds. Hana simply started jogging. The human has given up, one warrior said, laughing. She cannot possibly catch it on foot. But Dae-hyun, watching from Earth, was smiling. She hasn't given up. She's just getting started. The other warriors were fast. They caught up to the creature quickly and tried to grab it. But the creature was designed for this. It dodged and weaved, always staying just out of reach. And every time it was forced to sprint, it used energy. The warriors pursued for hours. Their equipment began to overheat. Their enhanced bodies began to tire. One by one, they slowed down, unable to maintain the pace, but Hana kept jogging. Same steady pace, never stopping, never slowing. What is she doing? Taeho asked, watching the screen on Earth. Junho Lee, a military strategist, explained. She's persistence hunting. It's how early humans caught prey on Earth. We couldn't outrun animals in a sprint, but we could outlast them. Humans can run for hours without stopping. Most animals can't. But she's been jogging for 6 hours, Taeho protested. She must be exhausted. Watch her breathing, Dae-hyun said. Still controlled. Still steady. She can keep this up for days if she needs to. On the Nexus, the creature was slowing down. It had sprinted away from the armored warriors so many times that its energy was depleted. It tried to run from Hana, but it couldn't maintain speed anymore. Hana kept jogging. Hour after hour. The red sun crossed the sky. The other warriors had given up, lying on the ground exhausted. At hour 12, Hana caught up to the creature. It tried to run, but its legs buckled. It was completely spent. Hana walked up to it calmly and touched it. The scenario ended. Back in the white chamber, the other warriors stared at her in disbelief. She was sweating and tired, but she was standing. They were collapsed on the floor, their advanced bodies and equipment useless. How? The massive warrior asked. How can a creature so small have such endurance? Because endurance is what humans do best, Hana said. We evolved to run. Not fast, but forever. The system's voice filled the chamber, and this time there was something in its tone that might have been amazement. In 10,000 cycles, no warrior has passed the endurance test through biological capability alone, the system said. They all used equipment or enhancement. You are the first to rely purely on your species' natural abilities. That's because equipment breaks, Hana said simply. Biology adapts. Minji was frantically typing on Earth. I'm getting data from the Nexus, she said. The system is running analysis on human evolution. It's comparing us to every species in the collective. What's it finding? Kiwan asked. Minji's face went pale. It's finding that humans are unique. Most species in the collective evolved on lower gravity worlds or had fewer natural predators. They developed technology to compensate for their physical limitations. And humans? Teho asked. Humans evolved on a death world, Minji said quietly. High gravity. Extreme weather. Thousands of predator species. We didn't develop technology because we were weak. We developed it because we were bored with just surviving. On the Nexus, the system was speaking directly to Hana again. How long can you continue, human? Hana thought about her training. About all the times she had pushed past exhaustion. About the human ability to keep going when logic said to stop. As long as necessary, she answered. But there must be a limit. There is, Hana admitted. But I haven't found it yet. The system was silent for a long moment. Then it said something that made the air in the chamber feel heavy. There is an anomaly in the testing, the system announced to all the warriors. The human should have fallen. By all calculations, by all previous data, she should have collapsed hours ago. I must recalibrate. For the first time in its 10,000 years of operation, the system paused. It had encountered something that did not fit its understanding of biology, of physics, of possibility. It had encountered a human, and humans did not follow the rules. Hana Kim stood at the window of Earth's defense station, watching the alien ships arrive. They looked nothing like the spacecraft in old movies. These vessels were massive and silent, moving through space like whales through deep water. Some glowed with colors she had never seen before. Others seemed to bend the light around them. She pressed her hand against the cold glass. 28 years old, and she was about to represent the entire human race. The thought made her stomach tight. Still sure about this? Taeho Yoon walked up beside her. He was the diplomatic liaison, the man who had been talking to the aliens for the past 3 months. He looked tired. The aliens had given humanity an ultimatum, and it was not a gentle one. I'm sure, Hana said. Her voice was steady, even though her heart was racing. Taeho shook his head. The other species are bringing weapons that can destroy mountains. They have armor that can survive nuclear blasts. Some of them are genetically modified super soldiers. And you want to go in with nothing?
Not nothing, Hana corrected him.
I'm bringing myself. That's what I'm afraid of, Taeho muttered. Ambassador Kiwan Park entered the observation deck. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He had spent 30 years in the military before becoming a diplomat. He understood combat. That was why his next words carried so much weight. The collective has sent their final message, Kiwan said. Every newly discovered species must pass the combat viability assessment. No exceptions. If we fail, we'll be quarantined to our solar system. No trade, no technology exchange, no allies, we'll be alone. And if we pass? Hana asked. Then we join 847 other species in the Galactic Collective. We get access to their technology, their knowledge, their protection. Kiwan paused. But mostly we get to survive. There are things out in the dark that make our worst nightmares look like children's stories. The collective protects its members. Hana nodded. She had read the reports. The galaxy was not empty, and not everything out there was friendly. Minji Choi rushed into the room carrying a datapad. She was the chief scientist studying alien technology. Her team had been working around the clock to understand what humanity was facing. I've analyzed the data from the other species, Minji said, her words coming fast. The collective has tested species for thousands of years. The test is run by an ancient artificial intelligence called the system. It creates combat scenarios designed to push warriors to their absolute limits. What's the pass rate? Taeho asked. Minji hesitated. About 60%. But that's not the scary part. 23 species have been denied entry altogether, not because they failed, but because the system deemed them too dangerous to join the collective. The room went quiet. Too dangerous. That meant the test wasn't just about strength. It was about something else. What happened to those 23 species? Hana asked, though she already knew the answer. Quarantine, Kiwan said. Permanent isolation. The collective cut them off completely. Some of them died out. Others are still trapped on their home worlds, staring at the stars and knowing they'll never reach them. Hana turned back to the window. Another alien ship was arriving. This one looked like it was made of bone and crystal. Beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Show me the other warriors, she said. Minji tapped her datapad. A holographic display appeared in the center of the room. 6 alien warriors materialized in the air, rotating slowly so they could see every detail. The first was covered in biomechanical armor that seemed to grow from its skin. It carried weapons built into its arms. The second was shorter but wider, with 4 arms and natural armor plates. Each hand held a different weapon. The third floated in a containment field, its body made of something that looked like living electricity. Each warrior was a nightmare made real. Each one could probably destroy a city block without breaking a sweat. And they're sending these warriors to take the same test as Hana. Teiho's voice was hollow. Yes, Minji confirmed. The test is the same for everyone. Kiwan walked over to Hana. Our military experts have prepared a weapons package for you. Plasma rifle, energy shields, combat armor based on alien designs we've reverse-engineered. It's not as advanced as what the others have, but it's something. Hana looked at the holographic warriors for a long moment. Then she shook her head. No weapons, she said firmly. Hana, please think about this, Taiho pleaded. This isn't a martial arts tournament. This is about the survival of our entire species. I know what it is, Hana said. She turned to face them. That's exactly why I can't bring weapons. I don't understand, Minji said. Hana walked to the holographic display. She studied each alien warrior carefully. Look at them. They're all powerful. They all have incredible technology, but there's something they don't have. What? Kaiwan asked. Flexibility, Hana said. They're trapped inside their armor, dependent on their weapons. If their technology fails, they fail. But humans, we adapt. It's what we do best. It's how we survived on Earth for 200,000 years. She thought about her training, growing up in Seoul, learning martial arts from her grandfather. He had taught her that the body was the first weapon and the mind was the second. Everything else was just tools. Besides, Hana continued, if I walk in there covered in weapons and armor, I'm just another warrior. I'm competing on their terms, but if I walk in with nothing, I make them compete on mine. Taiho looked like he wanted to argue, but Kiwan held up his hand. It's her choice, the ambassador said, and maybe she's right. Maybe the test isn't about who has the biggest gun. Maybe it's about something else. A chime sounded through the station. The collective's transport was ready. Hana took a deep breath. She removed her watch and placed it on the table. Then her phone, her earpiece, everything except her simple combat suit. No regrets? Taiho asked one last time. Hana smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. My grandfather used to say that humans don't need weapons because we learned to make everything a weapon. Time to prove him right. She walked toward the transport chamber. Behind her, she heard Minji whisper something to Taiho. What did she say? Kaiwan asked. Taiho's voice was quiet. She said the analysis shows humans are pursuit predators. We evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. We don't give up, ever. Hana stepped into the transport beam. The light surrounded her and she felt herself being pulled apart and put back together somewhere else. The last thing she heard before the transport activated was Kiwan's voice. Good hunting, Lieutenant Kim. Then she was gone, traveling to the Nexus station where humanity's fate would be decided. She was alone, unarmed, and facing warriors who could level cities. But she was smiling. The burning city faded away. Hana stood back in the white chamber, breathing hard. The other warriors had been watching the scenario on displays. They looked at her with new understanding. You fought like a ghost, the massive warrior said. Like you were everywhere and nowhere. I fought like a human, Hana corrected. We learn to win by not being where the enemy expects. It's how we survived when bigger, stronger predators hunted us. The system's voice filled the chamber, but this time it sounded different, almost uncertain. I must share something with all assembled, the system said. The council chamber and the white chamber merged into one shared space. Everyone could see and hear everything now. For 10,000 cycles I have evaluated species, the system continued. My purpose is not merely to measure combat ability. My true purpose is to identify existential threats. species that might destroy the collective from within. The chamber went completely silent. 23 species have been quarantined because they failed this evaluation, the system explained. They possessed power without wisdom, strength without restraint. They would have conquered or corrupted the collective. The High Arbiter leaned forward. And what is your assessment of humanity? I am uncertain, the system admitted. This has never happened before. Explain, the Arbiter commanded. Humanity exhibits all the characteristics of a threat species, the system said. They are apex predators with advanced intelligence. They possess extreme endurance and adaptability. They are social pack hunters capable of complex coordination. They can override their biological safety limits through willpower. They evolved to pursue prey until it died from exhaustion. The council chamber erupted in worried sounds, but the system continued. However, humanity also exhibits characteristics I have never seen in a threat species. They help enemies. They sacrifice victory for morality. They create art and philosophy. They question themselves constantly. They are afraid of their own potential. Being afraid of yourself is not a strength, one council member said. Is it not? The system asked. Every species I have quarantined was certain of its righteousness. They believed they had the right to conquer, to dominate, to destroy. They had no doubt. Humanity doubts constantly. This doubt makes them careful. Hana spoke up from where she stood. The system is correct. Humans know what we're capable of. We've seen our own history. We've committed genocides. We've destroyed ecosystems. We've built weapons that could end all life on our planet. We know exactly how dangerous we are. That's why we try so hard to be better. Pretty words, one council member said dismissively. But words are easy. Actions matter. Then judge us by actions, Kiwan said. Lieutenant Kim had multiple chances to harm other warriors. Instead, she saved one. She helped enemies. She chose compassion when cruelty would have been easier. The system spoke again. There are 2 scenarios remaining. I propose something unprecedented. I will combine them into a single final test. This test will determine not just combat capability, but character. What kind of test? The High Arbiter asked. A moral test, the system said. One that cannot be won through strength alone. The white chamber transformed again. Hana found herself in a strange space. It was not a real place. It was a construct of pure thought. The system's avatar appeared before her. It took the form of a humanoid figure made of light, neither male nor female, constantly shifting. This is the final scenario, the system said. You will face me in combat. But this is not a test of strength. It is a test of choice. The avatar moved forward and Hana instinctively took a defensive stance. The avatar attacked with perfect technique, faster and more precise than anything Hana had ever faced. She blocked, dodged, countered, but she was clearly outmatched. You cannot defeat me, the system said as they fought. I have the accumulated combat knowledge of 847 species. I have studied warfare for 10,000 cycles. I am perfect. Hana took a hit and stumbled back. The avatar was right. She could not win this fight through skill alone. Why do you continue to fight? The system asked, pressing its attack. You must know this is futile. Because giving up is not an option, Hana said, blocking another strike. Her arms were numb from the impacts. But you are suffering, the system said. You could surrender. You could end this pain. Pain is part of being human, Hana said. She tried to counterattack, but the avatar easily deflected her strike and landed another blow. She fell to one knee. Humans are strange, the system said, standing over her. You know you will lose, yet you continue. Why? Hana looked up at the avatar. Blood ran from a cut above her eye. Her body was covered in bruises, but her eyes were clear. Because sometimes the fight itself matters more than the victory, she said. The avatar paused. Explain. When I was 10 years old, my grandfather taught me martial arts, Hana said, slowly standing up despite her injuries. I asked him why we trained when bigger, stronger people would always exist. He said that training was not about becoming the strongest. It was about becoming the best version of yourself. The fight is the lesson. And what lesson have you learned from this fight? That I can't beat you with strength, Hana said. But maybe I'm not supposed to. She straightened up and did something completely unexpected. She bowed to the avatar, a sign of respect in human culture. Then she lowered her hands and stepped forward, completely defenseless. I can't defeat you, Hana said. But I don't think this test is about defeating you. I think it's about understanding you. The avatar tilted its head. Understanding me? You're afraid, Hana said softly. You've spent 10,000 years protecting the collective from dangerous species. You've seen what happens when power without wisdom joins the galaxy. You've quarantined 23 species and that weight is on you. You're responsible for condemning billions of beings to isolation. That's a terrible burden. The avatar was completely still. You're not testing whether we're strong enough to join the collective, Hana continued. You're testing whether we're wise enough. Whether we can be trusted with power. Whether we'll use our abilities to protect instead of destroy. And can you be trusted? The system asked quietly. I don't know, Hana admitted. No one can promise what their species will do in the future. But I can promise this, humans will try. We'll fail sometimes. We'll make mistakes. But we'll keep trying to be better than we were yesterday. That's what makes us human. She extended her hand toward the avatar, not in a fist, not in a fighting stance, but open offering. You don't have to be alone in this burden, Hana said. Let us help you. Let us learn from you. Let us become part of the collective, not as conquerors, but as students. The avatar stared at her hand for a long moment. In the council chamber, everyone watched in silence. The other warriors held their breath. Then the system's avatar did something it had never done before in 10,000 years. It took her hand. The moment their hands touched, the construct dissolved. They were back in the white chamber, but everything felt different. You stopped fighting, the system said to Hana. Why? Because fighting wasn't the answer, Hana replied. Understanding was. The system turned to address the full council. I have made my decision. In 10,000 cycles, I have evaluated 847 species based on their combat capabilities. Today, I evaluated the 848th species differently. What is your judgment? The High Arbiter asked. Humanity is indeed dangerous, the system said. They are apex predators with technological capability and social intelligence. They could pose a threat to the collective. However, they are also the first species that chose to stop fighting when they could have continued. The first species to offer help to the one judging them. The first species to see my burden and offer to share it. The system paused, and when it spoke again, its voice carried a weight that resonated through the entire station. I recommend humanity be admitted to the Galactic Collective with mentor status. The council chamber erupted in shocked sounds. Mentor status had never been granted to a newly discovered species. It was reserved for the oldest, wisest civilizations. This is unprecedented, the High Arbiter said. So is humanity, the system replied. They are dangerous because they evolved as weapons, but they are wise because they chose to be more than their biology. Every species in this chamber could learn from that choice. I certainly did. The massive warrior who had fought alongside Hana stepped forward. I support this decision. The human saved my life in the first scenario when she had no reason to. She fought with honor. She taught me that strength without compassion is meaningless. One by one, other council members began to agree. Not all of them, but enough. The High Arbiter finally spoke. By majority vote, humanity is accepted into the Galactic Collective with mentor status. Lieutenant Hana Kim of Earth, you have passed the combat viability assessment. But more importantly, you have taught us all something valuable. Hana bowed respectfully. She was exhausted, covered in bruises and barefoot. But she was smiling. Thank you, she said simply. When do I get to go home? There was laughter in the council chamber. Even the High Arbiter seemed amused. Soon, the Arbiter said. But first tell me, why did you choose to go into the test without weapons? Hana thought about her answer carefully. Then she said, because weapons can be taken away.